I love this one. I can't like. I thought this was a sick idea.
What I did like was that he said, okay, follow your passion isn't the way. It's bad advice. Good advice is, he calls it becoming a craftsman, working
Yeah,
on your skills.
is to just do something, just anything, just take action, do something, anything that can help you progress in whatever avenue you want to progress in. Just do something because you never know where it can lead on to. Welcome back to another episode of Book Reviews with Ty and Fly. I go by Ty.
Mr. Fly here in the office. What's going on, people?
So this month we have So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. He's also the author of Deep Work, if anyone has read that book. But yeah, this was my pick. It was actually given to me as a gift, a birthday gift many months ago. I haven't got around to reading it, but picked it this month. And we're just going to dive into it. Yeah, I'll just go, Mr. Fly.
Right. You know what's funny, yeah? Before I say what I think, I want to just get your views on this book, if
Yeah.
that's okay.
Before you see, yeah, okay. Do you know what? Let me be diplomatic. There were some
Okay,
things in
you said
here that
enough.
there were some things in here that I liked. Some really important things. Or really good points. But overall, I didn't enjoy this book. Yeah, I didn't enjoy this book. I found it hard to read. Not even it wasn't even hard to read. I just didn't enjoy it. But the point of the book is good. The message I think is really good. Which we're gonna dive into. And I
Yeah,
think the message is actually really important.
yeah,
But the book itself, I wouldn't read it again.
yeah, yeah. It's funny, right? Because that's exactly how I feel. Like, that's why I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to. I just wanted to see your pick because I'm reading this book and I'm like, wrong. I'm not enjoying this,
Yeah,
and I think it's the writing style. But then he's a blogger,
yeah,
and I feel like it's one long blog. That's kind of how I
yeah,
felt when I read it. Like, I felt like this is just one very long blog. I don't read a lot of blogs, if any at all. But I was like, but again, the message is a good message. It was quite. I mean, it's not controversial, but it was very interesting his take on passion.
yeah,
So in the first, he's got the passion hypothesis, and he talks a lot about passion. And I think, especially now in today, because of like the way the world is today, especially like entrepreneurial and career development and stuff like that. Passion is something that's spoken about a lot. Even myself, passion over profits. On the event we did last month, Cameron spoke about passion, following his passion, the
yeah,
Entrepreneur Club Global event. Even in the last book that we read, Happy Sexy Millionaire, Steve Bartlett also talks about passion. It's something that's spoken about so much. He gives an example of Steve Jobs here.
yeah,
Again, passion comes up. So it's something that a lot of people speak about, following your passion, XYZ. So he's kind of come with a passion hypothesis, more regarding this book was more about finding your career as opposed to setting up a business. Would you agree with that?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he's put here, the key to occupational happiness is to first figure out what you are passionate about and then find a job that matches your passion or matches that passion, which I agree with. That's the passion hypothesis. Now, we've spoken prior to this about whether that's toxic. I think we even spoke about that
Yeah,
because if you feel like if you're a young person, or not even a young person, a person that you're not clear on what your passion is, that can be quite, oh my gosh, everyone's out here following their passion and I don't even know what my passion is.
yeah,
How am I? So I'll never be happy. Do you know what I mean? That's a thought that people may have. A good example that Steve Bartlett put in there, which didn't occur to me until I read it, where he was like, your passions change over as you get older.
yeah,
Your passions change because you change. So this is so I didn't I agree. I thought it was quite controversial, and he used a speech that Steve Jobs gave, and I think maybe that was the beginning of the whole passion hypothesis and people really trying to find what they're passionate about and follow it, lead into that. Then he talks about how rare passion is in the next chapter, but I didn't disagree with that. But I was interested. I was like, okay, let's see where he goes because for myself, when I look at like Fit for Life Youth, that is definitely, for lack of a better term, like it's a passion project. Like
Yeah.
You were there. I kind of coined the idea of it. Like it was all about, I'm just going to do what I love doing. But then I think about it, that came to me at like, I was like 35, 34. So up until that point, but I wasn't searching for it. It kind of just hit me. That's
Yeah.
my own
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
experience. So if I was sitting there now, say we was having that conversation now, I was like, oh, he was asking me, Chris, so what's your passion? Just do that. Just do that. I don't know how easy that would have been for me to find that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
I think I think when he describes how to find work and how to find a career, I
Mm,
think the way he describes it, we're going to come on to the terms that he uses, is
mm,
essentially talking about passion.
mm,
I think, yeah, the way he describes it is essentially talking about passion. I felt like the word, the way his wording was just basically semantics. It was just kind of like,
mm,
don't use passion to
mm,
like tell someone, oh, find your passion. Tell them actually, what do you enjoy doing? What fulfills you? What gives you
mm.
impact? What impacts the world? And to me, that is passion. Um, so actually, let's go on to some statistics because he says career passions are rare, and that they did a study to ask students if they have a passion, and if they do, what are their passions. So 84% had a passion, and the top five were dance, hockey, skiing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
reading,
yeah,
and swimming. Now, of course, those are all things to be passionate about, but it's very hard to form careers in those areas. So only 4% identified passions that had a relation to work or education, with the remaining 96% saying their passions are
yeah.
hobby styles. So I think the word passion is is blurred lines,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
for example, me playing, I love playing football.
yeah.
I could say I'm passionate about playing football,
Baller, baller.
but but I don't play it all the time, and I don't necessarily want a job in football. I don't feel that
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah,
go and be
yeah.
a football coach or do anything to do with football. So yeah, I felt it was just very, yeah, there was a lot of gray areas, but the term
Yeah.
passion he doesn't like. He wants to reduce people from using that. So I guess we're gonna go on to the terms that he does use.
Mm. It's a tricky one because I think like sometimes trying to turn your passion into a money making endeavor can actually ruin that passion. Just, do you know what I mean? It can be
Yeah,
counterproductive. So yeah, but it's definitely semantics. It's funny because I think as well a good point he did make was that Steve Jobs didn't actually follow his passion.
yeah,
He kind of create his passion came out kind of at the back end when he with his whole story. I'm not going to go through it all, but which was quite an interesting point that he made. Like the stuff that he did when he was studying and all that and whatnot.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a tricky one, but I do actually agree with the phrase, or you say like telling. I don't think telling someone to just follow your passion is a
It's good
productive way of getting
advice.
someone. It's good advice. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think it's good advice. What do you
yeah.
think?
No, I agree with that. But I think we can break that down, you know.
Mm,
Not go follow your passion. It's more like, okay, what do you enjoy doing? Okay, what do you want to get better at? Which is kind of what he talks about in the book. What
mm,
do you feel could help society and impact the world positively?
mm.
And
Because he also speaks about mission, isn't it? I know that's way,
yeah,
way in the back end of the
yeah,
book,
yeah, yeah.
but he speaks about mission. Yeah, so that's a good point.
Um, and they did a study. I can't pronounce the guy's name. Ren Renewskis or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. At Yale
Someone's
University.
research.
Yeah.
The happiest, most passionate employees are those who have been around long enough to become good at what they do. So we actually start to enjoy things that we're good at, right? It's like when we start getting results, we start to enjoy things. If we're doing something and we're, not getting results, we start to lose interest and not enjoy it, and that's what they found in some research. So
Mm,
not necessarily about finding passion, finding something that you can be good at, and that can turn into maybe it can turn into your passion, or it turns into something
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And they talk about this. Well, the author talks about the self-determination theory, um, and three things. These are three things that help you feel fulfilled in your job or your work or whatever it is you do. And one is autonomy, the feeling that you have control over your day and that your actions are important. The two is competence, the feeling that you are good at what you do. And three is relatedness, the feeling of connection to other people. So basically, the feeling that you can have creativity throughout your day, that you're good at being creative and doing whatever it is that your job role entails, and also that the people that you work with, you have some kind of friendship or banter or just
Yeah.
companionship
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
with your
Yeah. Yeah.
colleagues. And I thought that was you know that was a really good piece of advice when searching
Mm.
for career advice or even business. um
Yeah.
yeah.
I think definitely, and I think moving on from that, what he does, because what I did like was that he said, okay, follow your passion isn't the way. It's bad advice. Good advice is, he calls it becoming a craftsman, working
Yeah,
on your skills,
the
which is, so I
craftsman
guess that's what the
mindset.
whole book's about, craftsman mindset, exactly, which I think, yeah, a focus on what value you are producing in your job versus the passion mindset, a focus on what your job offers you, So I get it. And I think that's a good way to do it because it's about developing skills.
Yeah,
I do think they kind of can come together because you could, but I do think maybe the craftsman mindset is a good way to start. Like, okay, let me step into an industry, and what skills are needed in this industry, and how can I improve in this? Again, going back to Happy Sexy Millionaire, when he talks about having various skills that are able to apply to different, to kind
yeah,
of give you multifaceted, essentially. So I did agree with that because I think that, again, because skills are transferable.
yeah,
So let's say if you've got skills in a particular industry or for a particular business, and then you decide those things that you spoke about, relatability and all the other stuff that you spoke about, that's not hitting you. You think, I just want to change industry, but I'm very good at X, and this industry also requires what I'm good at, so I can just transfer that over and apply that to here, and vice
yeah,
versa. So that I think that's a good idea, and I thought about it. I thought, yeah, skills is definitely, the more skills you have, the more, I guess, for this perspective, more employable you are,
yeah.
and also the better your business. The more skills you have for your business or your organization, the more skills you have personally, the more you can teach people those skills and train them up, and you'll be able to react and respond to what's going on in the current market and whatnot.
And also the more skills you have, the more leverage you
Yeah,
have in your
yeah,
job role. Because I mean we're jumping all over, but it goes on to a lady called Lulu, and she was some kind of tech expert, or I can't even remember what her job role was, but she had built up so much skills, and the term he uses for skills is career capital. So
yes,
building up as many different skills as you can for your career. But she had so much career capital that getting work for her was actually really easy. And
yeah,
when she was getting work, she could dictate the terms of that job. So she'd say,
mm-hmm.
actually, no, I want to work 30 hours in this role.
Yeah, yeah,
My rate is X amount.
yeah,
This means outside of work, I have the time to go and I think she was flying a plane at the time or learning to fly a plane or something like that. So she had built up the skills to be able to dictate her terms. Whereas without doing that, she wouldn't necessarily have been able to do that. So the title of the book is Be So Good They Can't Ignore You, or So Good They Can't Ignore You. But the message is basically be so good at whatever it is that you do that
mm-hmm.
they can't ignore you, and that
Yeah,
you can progress, dictate your own
yeah,
terms. Yeah,
yeah, definitely. And that was interesting because when I read that, I was like, the career capital. I was like, yeah, I get it, because I think back to, like, when I look at the schools I've worked with, and some of and it made me think of certain teachers that I've worked with over the years, or that I've known, or that I know, or even other industries, but schools are the first one that came to my head. I was like, when a teacher steps in as an NQT, which is a newly qualified teacher, they may have changed the terminology now, but when you step in your first year of teaching versus someone who's been teaching for 15 years, 20 years, the workload or the amount of time that person spends in the school. A lot. You basically the more career capital you have, the more say you have on how often you work and what time you
Yeah.
start working and whatnot. Because the employer knows, well, this is good value, this person, and I'm willing. They're so important to me. Replacing them would be I wouldn't be able to replace them.
Yeah.
I can't replace them. So I'd rather work on their terms.
Yeah.
So they say, because at least I know what I'm getting out of them, which is a lot better than having someone and you've got to train them, you've got to learn, you've got to put a lot of time into them. So I've seen teachers, where they don't potentially they might only work 2 or 3 days in the building, or they might work, leave early on a certain day or start late on a certain day. But the employer knows that when they're working properly and they're getting good value and they've got all that experience behind them versus when someone just starts that journey. So you kind of work your way towards it and you build up your career capital as you're going along.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of that in so many different industries where when you get more clout and you get more career capital, it's like you're able to kind of set your own terms, which I think is definitely good. And then as
Yeah.
like an employer, I'm thinking, you've got you definitely look at it and think like, yeah, this person is good enough that I'll happily negotiate with them about how often they work or when they do work. And that's all built up. It's not just, someone has to earn that. You can't just
Yeah.
come in
Yeah.
off the bat. It has to be earned. And not necessarily earn it with you, but it has to be earned over the time and the skills they picked up and the experience they picked up over the years, and how much career capital they have. So that, like I said, that I think it's very logical and most of it's not, like you said, the terms and the ideas that he puts forward in this book is not something you're going to really argue against.
Yeah.
But the book itself just was hard to read.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the way you link that to real life, because that is so
Yeah,
genuine.
yeah,
And given that real life example, because I mean, I can think even this just reminds me of my old retail job when I had been there a few years, built up the skills. I could open up, I could do managerial stuff
yeah, yeah.
basically, but I wasn't a manager, so
Mm.
I had quite a lot of flexibility because of the skills
Your
and
career
knowledge that
capital.
I had. If I
Yeah,
needed to come in late, I'd say, look, I've got this on, I need to come in late. It was very flexible. Where someone new, they didn't
no,
have that,
yeah,
credibility. So it was, yeah, the message was so good. And I want to go back to the craftsman mindset, because that's kind of
mm.
building up the career capital, and the traits that they put that define great work is creativity, impact, and control, which is pretty much what he says about the self-determination theory when I think about
Mm.
it.
Mm.
but
Mm.
um but also he talks about the craftsman mindset can fail, and because of these three reasons. The job presents few opportunities to distinguish yourself by developing relevant skills that are rare and valuable. So you don't have opportunities in your job role to learn or get better. The job focuses on something useless or perhaps even actively bad for the world. So the job is not impacting the world in a positive way. And the third one is the job forces you to work with people you really dislike. So you're working with pagans and haters and and people that
Yes.
you don't enjoy, and that's when the craftsman mindset can be bad. And actually,
Mm.
this actually really made me think about employees of a smoking company.
Mm.
Like smoking brands. I'm not going to publicize any, but yeah, to work for them, I don't know. I hope no one that watches this is working for them. I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but essentially, something that's having a really negative impact on people's life. In
Yeah,
theory, I guess you
yeah,
could argue smoking helps
yeah.
some people.
How would you argue
um,
that?
well,
Stress,
it
stress relief.
relaxes people.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
stress. Long term, it's obviously bad for us, but yeah, are the people that work in those companies unfulfilled? Very, very.
It's
Yeah,
like there's so many industries. I mean,
yeah,
there's so many industries, man, that you
yeah,
could pick and choose. I mean, depends on the individual. So, like some people just want to look after their family and just want to pay their
Yeah.
bills and stuff like that. So maybe they are fulfilled if they're preparing, like they've been able to provide or support their family or whatever. So, but I get what you mean. I get what you
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Did you know he spoke about? He told a lot of stories in this book.
Yeah.
A lot of stories. There was an interesting story which he spoke about actually becoming a craftsman. The
Yeah.
guy was called Jordan Tice, the guitar player.
Yes. Yes.
Which
Yes.
he spoke about. Obviously, and again, I think the 10,000 hour rule they spoke about in this
Yeah.
book. I know we've touched on it before. Have we actually explained it before? What it is?
I
Have I
don't
spoken about
know,
it
but
before?
let's go for it.
I'll quickly just explain what it is. So the 10,000 hour rule. This was something that I found out when I was working with when I started not starting coaching, but whilst I was coaching. And what it is the idea that excellence at performing a complex task requires a critical minimum level of practice surfaces again and again in studies of expertise. In fact, researchers have settled on what they believe is the magic number of true expertise, 10,000 hours. So focusing on difficult activities carefully chosen to stretch your abilities where they most need stretching and provide immediate feedback. So that basically means if you wanted to become a tennis player or you have a child, you want your child to become a tennis player, to become an expert, they have to play tennis for 10,000 hours essentially within their
Yeah.
lifespan. So the quicker they get to that 10,000 hours, the quicker they'll become an expert. And that applies to, you can apply that to so many different things, not only sport. But again, you've got to be stretching yourself, and I think this is the difference where, all right, let's use you as an example. You spoke about football as a passion, what could be defined as a passion, one of your
Yeah.
passions, but you played football obviously at a good level. You played football, you still play football now, but you were never trying to become an expert at football. So you didn't necessarily try and push yourself to those levels in football. You chose to do that in other areas. So someone who's trying to become a pro footballer, you're going to have to go and hit those 10,000 up. You're going to have to train and do stuff individually, independently, and push yourself. Try hard. Try things that are hard. I
Yeah.
know when I coach people, especially one of the footballers that I coach, is like when he's doing certain drills, I'll tell him to do it faster, just so fast that he feels like he's got less control on the ball.
Yeah.
Because then it's like if because he's very good, so it's like all right, you need to go faster to make it even so you're still so you get to that point of trying where
Yeah.
the ball's just out of your control, you're just at your limit. You see
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? And that again can be applied with anything. If you're trying to, when I used to work in schools, they had like the top bracket of the children in the class would work at a level called extend yourself. So this is ones that they're very intelligent children, but they're working just a little bit above their level. And
Yeah.
and then you go down to working to different levels, they're still pushing themselves to the end because you don't want it to be too easy because then it's not stimulating and it's boring.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want it to be too hard because then it's demoralizing. It's like you can't achieve it. So I mean, so you need to just get to that level where you're just, like if you're running,
Yeah.
you just want to run at that pace that's just a little bit out of your comfort zone. And then what will happen is that will keep raising and raising and raising. And over the time, you're becoming a faster runner, you're becoming a better footballer, you're becoming more intelligent or learning what you need to learn faster. So yeah, that's the 10,000 hour rule. And that's one of your ways of becoming a craftsman.
Yeah. And to touch on that as well, he uses, deliberate practice,
Deliberate practice, yeah.
gradual process, stretching yourself, but also continuously learning and getting feedback. I think
Yeah.
that's an important point. So it's not just, doing 10,000 hours. You might do 10,000 hours of whatever. It's learning as you go, getting feedback, adjusting, making it better. So you could just do, like you said, with the football example, he could just become really good at dribbling at that speed, and stay at that level, right? But he needs to push himself, like you're making him push himself to go a little bit faster each time, a little bit faster, so it's learning and progressing. So yeah, I mean, becoming a craftsman, I think is really valuable in a career, even as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Learning new skills, like we spoke about in Happy Sexy Millionaire. But he also talks about the 5 habits of a craftsman, which
Yeah.
again, which was good. Decide what capital market you're in. Identify your capital type, which actually I didn't actually quite understand. I don't know if you understood that. No,
I mean, I'm
not
just thinking
really.
career capital type. Like
Yeah.
I
Uh,
couldn't really just explain it, but no.
define good, what will get you good at this career. So define, what looks good to you. Stretch and destroy. So push your comfort zone to learn.
Yeah.
And the fifth one, which I think many people forget this one, I think it's important, is patience.
Mm,
There's no such thing as overnight success.
mm,
So that's what I mean about this book, because there were some nice moments in the book where it's like, actually, yeah, that's a good reminder, because patience is needed.
it's
Um,
underrated.
yeah, it's underrated
I think
because
it's a sign of the times, because
yeah,
you're looking. It's a comparison theory, really. It's a comparison complex because people are looking, at someone their age online, and they're thinking, well, this person done it
yeah,
at the same age that I am at. So, interesting stat as well. I don't know if it was in this book. I saw somewhere like, people talk about billionaires and stuff like that. Like the average billionaire, did he say it in this book? It's like they're like in their 50s, 60s, if not older.
I
So
don't know if it was in this book.
wasn't this book? I don't know where I saw that. But basically, my point is like people kind of think, oh, to become a millionaire or billionaire is something I should do within X amount of years. This is a long, and again, it kind of goes back to the career capital thing. So it's not for some people. There are outliers, of course,
Yeah,
but for the majority of people, it's a long, sustained process. Look at compound interest. Things like
yeah,
that. People like that. It's like it's not just one act. There are obviously you could win the lottery, you become an overnight success in something. It can happen, but for the majority of cases, I think that's the exception to the rule, not necessarily the rule itself. But
yeah,
people aren't comfortable with that patience because they're looking and you're comparing and thinking, well, look, there's X amount of this and X amount of that. So, being patient is very underrated.
yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, it's a sign of the times. Things like social media, even
Yeah,
things like ordering food, like
yeah,
just
yeah,
everything's so easy now. Like
yeah,
everything, especially if you're in a big city like London, ordering takeaway is comes to your house within half an hour. Do you know what I mean? If you order on
yeah.
the app, um, it's just convenient. Everything
Yeah, I
is,
think we're not geared to be our life. We don't have to be patient in our day to day. Like even now, like
yeah,
if your phone starts or your computer starts buffering, it's like, oh, what's going on?
yeah,
It's buffering. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what's going on? It's like a couple of seconds, bro. Do you know what I mean? But we don't even mean like,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? We're not really, because things are so instant now, isn't it? Everything's instant.
Things are just so quick, man. Do you remember? Yeah, this is off topic of the book, yeah. But do you remember dialing up for the internet and having to wait
Yeah,
like five
yeah,
minutes
yeah,
for you
yeah.
to get connected to the internet,
Yeah.
and you're just there, sat there waiting patiently for like 5 minutes.
Calm,
If my
calm.
computer
Yeah,
did that for a minute now, I'd be going mad.
oh man, I
So
remember
yeah,
the
man,
days plugging it
how
into the
times
phone line and all
change.
that. Yeah, yeah. It's all
How
mad.
times change, man. Um, the other thing he talks about is the power of control when it comes
Mm,
to employees, or you as an employee yourself. And it talks about creating what he uses as a acronym called ROWE,
yeah,
ROWE.
that was the dream job elixir, chapter 8.
Yes. Um, you always got the chapters on Smash, innit?
Yeah, no, because I'll go on, keep
Go on.
talking, keep talking. No, 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 no. I just
uh,
because I will say this before you go, because like me, when I read this, I was like, and this was my favorite part of the book actually,
yeah,
and I was like, I love this because and anyone that works for me will know, I always say to them, I'm results orientated. Like
yeah,
I'm about results. That's what I'm about. This is your job. Do what you need to do. Make sure if you just do this, and I don't really mind what you do in and around it, within
yeah,
reason, obviously. But just these are your responsibilities. I'll give very simple examples. Like my apprentices and the receptionists that work at HQ, they've got their checks when they start their job. When they start their shift, you've got your checks. Do your checks. After that, because there's quiet periods. You know what I mean? When you're in front of the house, there's quiet periods. I don't really mind what you do. You can go and train. You could do what within reason. You could do what you need to do. But
yeah,
when you come in, there's your checks. Do the checks. If the checks require you to do something off the back of doing those checks, you need to do it, because I don't want to go and find something that should have been done and then have to do it myself.
mm-hmm,
You see what I mean? I'm
yeah,
about results. That's something that I'm very, so this really resonated with me.
yeah. And um, just to clarify, the term ROWE, ROWE, is results only working environment. So, um, and it actually had some positive statistics around this for
Yeah.
employees. Teams that implement Row reduced people leaving by 90% and increased employee happiness. And I think one of the key points as well, it mentioned like giving people more control over what they do and how they do it increases their happiness, engagement, and sense of fulfillment. And that
Mm-hmm.
comes back to us as individuals within, our career choices or our entrepreneurial um, endeavors. Like when we have control over what we do, when we're having an impact, when we feel more fulfilled. I definitely feel like that with my job. I love the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I have control over my day, over my time. I think that's the main one of the big things that I love about being in business is that
Mm.
if I really need to, I can take the day off.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
yeah,
that doesn't
yeah,
happen often, but I just for an example, it was quite nice actually. The other day, I took my mum for lunch, which isn't something that
Nice.
I would have been able to do if I didn't have
Mm.
a career that allowed me to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, man, I think having control is a really nice thing in a career, and it goes back to that lady Lulu that I mentioned, who created so much career capital that allowed her to do that. And just to
Yeah.
go back, not to drag on to this 2 point, there was a time in my life where I couldn't do this. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, I can't do this right now in my life, so therefore I'm failing or whatever. It's if that's what you want, you can build up to that. There was a time where I had to work long hours, long days, and I couldn't take time off when I was, working part time employed. I had to be there.
Mm.
So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, I think the role, yeah, the results only work environment. I think it's a good way to like it shows a lot of trust as an employee. You'd feel that your employer trusts you, and
Yes.
so then therefore it's obviously like you said, enjoyment and fulfillment and happiness. It's definitely going to bring those kind of characters. You're going to feel that way because you feel like, Ray, they actually trust me. And as well, a lot of here's an interesting thing there. One of my friends has gone to work abroad, and I'm not going to say where, but where he's gone is like he said to me that they're still in the 90s, kind of like how they manage.
Yeah.
The money's good over there, but the way they manage is very different. Like he has to come in, they don't face clients, they don't face clients, but they come in, they have to wear a shirt and a tie, and that it's that kind of very middle management. He can't speak to his top manager. He's got to speak to this person, speak to that person. It's very much like that. Whereas the work culture over here, I guess in the Western world, should we say, has changed, right?
Yeah.
So he's obviously not used to that. So now it's just like for him, he's gone from a place where it's about results to somewhere now it's like, no, we've got this structure. It's a very rigid structure. You have to be in at this day, at this time. You have to wear a shirt and a tie, X, Y, Z. Do you see what I mean? Where this is quite modern thinking, maybe quite Western thinking. So it's just interesting because on one hand, I guess obviously he's enjoying the money he's getting paid. I don't know how much he's actually enjoying because there was a situation that was a bit frustrating, but I don't know whether this was I mean, it's about a month or two ago now. But I know at that time it was like, this is annoying. I just want to speak to my manager. Like, but
Yeah.
I've got to speak to this person to speak to that person. It's just a bit. So he just said it's a bit. So, but they're still coming along. But I guess the more that people kind of go over there and start working over there, the more the culture will change. But it's just
Yeah.
interesting because that's very much not a results only environment. It's
Yeah.
results plus all the compliance
Yeah.
versus here where it's like, or was industries that take on employees that take on the role. It's like, well, it's just results. Just come in and just make sure you do your job.
Yeah.
And within reason, I don't mind. You can work from home, you can come in late, you can come in your pajamas, like that. It's like, no, because there's places that do this. I'm sure you
Yeah.
must know about this. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
places they do like dress down Fridays, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
like all these sort of things where they've got Google, I think, are very famous with this. And I've been to some offices as well before where I've seen they've got table tennis, pool table, vending
Yeah.
machine, computers, and stuff like that. So that's given a lot of independence. And if you can't handle that as an employee, if you can't handle having all that freedom, you're not going because then it's going to impact your results. And remember,
Yeah.
that's the main thing. They care about results. So you still have to do your job. You still have to do your
Yeah.
job. So yeah, man, it's just interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I think as an employer, that's when you step in, right? When the results aren't getting made and
Yep.
you've got all this flexibility, then
Yep.
we increase that rigidity.
Yeah.
Um,
And then again, sorry, just last point in it. It's like that again goes towards the career capital because,
yeah,
like, if you look at a sporting, if you look maybe Ronaldinho, really like one of the best footballers ever, right? He never used to train apparently, or he wasn't a good trainer, but he's on the pitch, he's doing his job on the pitch.
yeah,
So you could, and as well because of the career capital he has and the kind of player that he is, cool man. He comes in a little bit late to training, or he doesn't train as well. But when he hits that pitch, he's doing the business. But
yeah,
again, once that starts to falter, all right, now we have to talk because you need to kind of fall in line because you're not actually delivering the other side. So interesting. I agree with it.
yeah, yeah. I agree with it. And I guess there's a lot of industries that aren't results only. I mean, just to touch on football briefly there, because
Mm,
we look at what happened to Ronaldo recently with Manchester United.
mm,
Is
mm,
he I don't know if you noticed, but he left he couldn't do the preseason training because his daughter was in hospital, or there was some family stuff that meant he couldn't do the preseason training. But he got left out of the team. He wasn't playing that much. But when he did play, he scored. He got goals, he got the results. But there was some whole hullabaloo and falling out because of it. He's no longer at Manchester now. They've broken ties. But that is a very much not a results only industry. He should part of the part of the I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Part of the disagreement is that he feels he's built up enough career capital and enough clout to be like, oh,
mm,
actually, let me miss preseason because of my family and still make the first team.
mm.
But the manager had other ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
football
yeah,
things. I'm not gonna, that's a long.
but
Yeah, I
yeah,
get you.
I,
That's
I'm
football
not sure how
things.
many people watch football or know that situation. So,
Well, the World Cup's on now,
apologies
so it's
if
fine.
not.
It's all good. The World Cup's on.
Do you want to touch on finding a mission?
Yeah, yeah, go on and just yeah, we can. Um, an interesting thing though as well. They spoke about control traps, which we won't go into it, but that was
Oh yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
that was
yeah.
in yeah. Do you want to
No,
go
we
into it a
can
little
we can
bit?
go on. We can go on that.
So the control traps. I think he said there was like two control traps, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
And then how you can control is valuable trait, but you need something. So controlling your job again from an employee's perspective to try and take that control. So if you look at that example of that I gave earlier of a teacher or even like Ronaldo or whatever, you need to offer something in return to have that control to say, well, you know what, or Ronaldinho, like I'm only going to work. I can't work weekends.
yeah,
Oh, I've got to start. I want to take my. This is something that a lot of people, again now because of the whole working from home and where things have changed and perspectives have changed, where people are like, well, I was at home for 2 years and I'm still doing my job, so I don't necessarily need to come into the office every day to do my job. Do you see
yeah,
what I mean? So it's like, or I want to take my kids to school.
yeah,
That's a non-negotiable for me. Or I want to pick my kids up from school, or
yeah,
whatever. I want to meet my mum for lunch
yeah,
once a week, or whatever. So now this is you trying to take control over your own life and your work life and say, well, I'm still gonna do my job, but these are the things that I'm gonna do. So you have to be able to offer something. No, so you're only gonna
yeah,
get those yeses to those questions or the allowances to do those things if you're bringing something to the table. You see what I
yeah.
mean? So that's
The
that was the
key, the
control.
key, what he says is it's extremely hard to gain more control without enough career capital. So if you don't
Yeah,
have enough skills and enough credibility and enough clout, for lack of a better word, um, it's hard to gain more control in your
yeah,
career.
yeah.
Um,
I
was
think
it?
an industry where I've worked in sales before, and that was something I definitely saw in sales when I first joined one sales team that I was in. And the top salesmen were literally allowed to do whatever they wanted to do, and I was like, all right, cool, that's how I need to be, because
Yeah,
they'll come in. They want us to work in the gym. They'll come in the morning, train, go for lunch, chat to the receptionist, bust, come moving around, da, da, da. They come in for 2 hours, blah, 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 make their sales for the day, off. So I'm like, all right, cool. This is where I need to be because I'm here from 9, making calls, going outside, doing outreach. But again, that was the career capital because they had and they were confident in their pipeline that they
yeah,
knew that they had it all lined up. So they didn't need to necessarily be bang in line because they had their network already. They had their corporates what I just couldn't explain that. So in the gym, you have like corporate memberships and stuff. So you would have a contact at a certain organization or certain business or company that when new starters join that company, they would get a discount on their gym membership. So you could just, everyone that's new, I'll give them their email. So they were confident, they knew what to do. And again, results, end of the day, they were the top salesmen. So they're making sales.
Yeah.
So you're never going to, as a manager, why would you kill your golden goose? Because they're not coming in at 9 when
Yeah.
they're outperforming everybody else. Do you see
Yeah.
what I mean? So, and then that's built, it's not like they came in off the jump with that, but that's built up over time because like, well, what have you done for me lately? Like people want to look at it. If there's numbers, using this example of in this gym, the memberships, if their numbers started to drop, that's when the manager will start coming on to you, be like, well, listen, you need to come in on time now because you've got to do the outreach or you've got to go and hand out flyers outside the train station and all that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you've got to have something in return to offer for it. But yeah,
Yeah.
what did you think about it?
No, exactly. So let's go on to the second control trap. You have the career capital, but your employer will try their hardest to keep you. So they'll try their hardest to push back against your career capital. So it's like, when you get so good that they can't ignore you, and you're asking for, a little bit of more time, a little bit of a pay rise, and the employer's like, oh, actually, no, let me push back against it. That's the second control trap. And I think it's only when people threaten to leave or, do you know what I mean? When extreme circumstances happen that you either succeed or you move on,
You know what was interesting about this book here? And it's reminding me because I'm looking through my notes and these chapters, like you said, what he did, his style, the writing style of the author, where he would basically summarize the chapter in the first paragraph. Like, so the control trap, he would just summarize the chapter. Then he would give an example of it through a story.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you. I just found the stories very boring. Like, they didn't intrigue me. Like, they were just kind of like, it just seemed like it wasn't, but I did like, because I liked the first chapter because I understood like the first paragraph in italic, he'd write, one of the things you just said, so you could get the understanding of it straight away. Then I guess he would prove it through telling a story about somebody that kind of fought against that control trap or whatever. But it did impact on like how much I enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
Like, so,
I think
it made me think like, what's the point of this chapter?
The stories, I like stories. But I didn't necessarily like the way he told his stories.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe they were a bit wordy, or there were some irrelevant points in the stories, or I don't know. It just didn't feel like flowy. I don't know. I don't know what it was. But some of the stories I did enjoy because I want to talk about going on to Finding a Mission.
Yeah.
American Treasure. There was an archaeologist called Kirk. And his mission was he wanted to spread the mission to popularize modern archaeology. And this was one of the stories that I did actually quite like because it goes back to one of the things that I always believe and try and tell people, like especially people that want to start a business or side hustle or whatever, is to just do something, just anything. Just take action, do something, anything that can help you progress in whatever avenue you want to progress in. Just do something because you never know where it can lead on to. And I think my YouTube channel is a good example of that, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to stick to the story. So this guy Kirk, he filmed himself visiting calls from the public about archaeology. So people would call in and ask questions about archaeology. Maybe they found some bones in their garden, and he would go and look at the bones and record himself. And then it turns out, the bones were just like from a deer, or they weren't actually some hidden fossil or whatever. But he recorded that and put it somewhere. And then he pitched this idea to a production company, and then they loved it, and then they created 8 episodes off the back of it. And then they actually paid, because he was still lecturing at the time or whatever, as an archaeologist. They paid his whole wage for the summer when he should be lecturing. They paid him, they gave him extra money, and it all came from the back of just doing something. You know, his mission was to promote archaeology and, you know, get more information about it, make it a bit more popular. And he thought, actually, let me just take calls about it. Let me just go and record myself, see what happens at the back. And it ended up in a TV company picking it up. And I just love that, man. I swear,
Yeah.
I just love when people take action
Get
and it
busy.
just leads to something. You never know
Yeah.
what. Just do something, anything.
Yeah. 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 No, no, you're right, bro. It's like you're better off doing something than doing nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
literally. And again, this is interesting because what I was about to say was, well, he just did what he was passionate about. Obviously, he loved bones and da da da. And I guess he didn't do it with the thought of this is what's going to come from it. He
yeah,
just did it because he
yeah,
enjoyed doing it.
yeah,
And but he wasn't trying to. So this is maybe where where passion and career maybe don't line up because
yeah,
it's like you shouldn't necessarily try and do a job or find a career that you're passionate about potentially. Maybe you just do what you're passionate about. Like that's just something you do for you. Do you
yeah,
see what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
And then a side effect of that may lead to something, it may not though at the same time. But for this person, because I remember that story, that was it. He was on the History Channel or
yeah.
Discovery Channel.
Some his,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a good story. That was one of the good ones actually. And but he wasn't doing it with. He just did it for the sake of doing it. And there's loads of examples like that. I guess especially with like with YouTube and stuff like that. People just and some things can catch on, but he wasn't necessarily trying. His plan wasn't I want to get a job I want to work as a TV host. He was a archaeologist. He was a lecturer. And I guess that's where it's like you don't want to necessarily try and build a career out of your passion. You just want to
yeah,
build a career, and then who knows what your passion is just a separate thing that you want to do.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So yeah, no, it was good. And then again, he even says because imagine if he had tried to get in there and start trying to go and start pitching immediately to these TV companies. Who are you? Like
yeah,
you've got no experience in TV. Do you know what I mean? So he had something he could bring to the table.
yeah.
But no, I agree with that. I agree with that because you never know what doors are going to be opened.
Exactly. And I think
Mm.
one of the terms he uses is little bets.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So doing small things towards your mission. So trying something, small, seeing how it goes, whatever it is your mission is, whether you um so for example, one of my missions when I come back from Australia, I was like, bro, Australia generally people are a lot more happy in comparison to London. They're generally a lot fitter and healthier. My mission was and still is, to improve the health and well-being of people in London. And I was like, right, I need to, how can I do this? All right, I want to start delivering presentations. So I'll just go into the library, just making presentations. Those presentations were so terrible. When looking back at it now, they were
But that's
so
career
terrible.
capital, right? That's your
But
career
that's the
capital
career
for me.
capital because
Yeah,
now I'm actually, half decent at
you're more than half
presentations.
decent.
Yeah.
You're more than
All
half
right. Yeah,
decent.
I don't want to
Yeah,
blow
good
my own
movie.
trumpet. You know what I mean? but but yeah, now I've built up that career capital, and just by taking a little bet, doing something, yeah, I can't stress that point enough, man. I
Mm.
just get off your ass. That's
Get up and do it. Do it. Get up and just do it like Nike.
yeah,
But yeah, no. I think because yeah, he does talk about mission and career. I'm just looking through my notes here. So the power of mission. To have a mission is to have an undying focus on your career. So I kind of feel like they're separate. I think they're better separate potentially,
yeah,
depending. It's kind of grey. That's like a
yeah,
greyish one.
yeah.
But he spoke about other examples. I can't remember it enough, but there was one lady that was looking into diseases or something like that. I forget her name. Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah. He
Paradis
referenced her a lot throughout
Yeah.
the book as well. But
Mm,
that story lost me, man. I can't.
mm,
Yeah, I I
mm.
I lost.
But I'm just
Yeah, that story lost me. Like, let's just quick.
yeah, go on, go
No, I
to.
was just going to quickly go on to, because the routines that kept the author productive. Because I did like this kind of near the end. And he talked about his Bible routine, writing a summary
Oh,
of
okay.
a relevant research paper each week, which helped him,
Yeah, yeah,
um, I think, write this book. The hour
yeah.
tally
That's in the
routine
conclusions, right?
in the conclusions. The hour tally routine. Uh, keep a note on the monthly hours spent on deliberate practice. So he
Deliberate
would,
practice, yeah.
spend hours practicing or whatever, and keep a note of it. That way, every month he's got clear black and white. He did 27 hours this month. He did 40 hours this month. I actually thought that, oh, okay, that's actually quite good.
That's very
And
deliberate.
very deliberate. And the last one was the theory notebook, which I loved this one. I thought this was a sick idea. Like, he bought an expensive notebook
Yeah,
to write
yeah.
thoughts and theories in it. But the fact that it was expensive meant that he didn't use it to just write any old crap. He used it
Mm-hmm.
to only write things that were really valuable and meaningful to him. And it just saved him using that as like a junk notepad.
Sketchbook, yeah.
So when he goes back to look at the notepad, they're all pressing or good notes or good issues or whatever. So yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I think going back, two of the main takeaways. There's a lot of good takeaways in this book, actually, but I think two of the main takeaways that I have from this is the deliberate practice. I think that's very important for whatever you're trying to do, and it goes back to the kind of what people say, before you grew up hearing like practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
But that's actually incorrect. It's like practice makes permanent is so that's why
there's no such thing as perfect.
And there's no such thing as perfect. Yeah, exactly. But I think I meant it more in the phrase of like, if we use the tennis player example, the football player example, or anything, or guitar, whatever. If whatever you're doing, you're gonna keep working on that specific skill. So if you're doing it wrong, you're gonna become very, very good at doing it in the wrong way. All right. So if you don't have, whether it's a coach or you're not even analyzing yourself, when we first, right, here's a good example for me and you, especially me. When I first started boxing, I would record a lot of my spars, a lot of them. I would record a lot of them and watch them back. And then I would look at it, I've done that wrong. That wasn't too bad. I would literally critically analyze myself through watching them back. And then the next time I sparred, I would have in my mind, I remember last time I dropped my hands, or I remember last time I was crossing my feet. That would be my main focus for that one thing. So that was how I started to improve. So then that is a deliberate practice, which obviously I wasn't aware at the time what I was doing, but I just knew I wanted to improve. And I knew that I didn't want to just keep doing the same thing and not actually improving and just kind of hitting a plateau, a very low plateau as well. And I think that goes, so either you're doing it yourself or you've got someone around you, a mentor, a coach, a friend, a family, whoever it might be, to kind of give you that feedback and say, well, this was good. This is what we need to work on. That's very deliberate. It's not just, but you're only going to do that on things that you really care about, whether that is your career. Do you know what I mean? Whether that is your case. So that was something that, so that's why whatever you're doing becomes permanent. Because again, if you go back to that boxing example, if I was kept crossing my feet, I would get very good at crossing my feet.
Yeah.
Which doesn't go in hand with trying to be good at boxing. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's other scenarios like that. So that was something. So the deliberate practice and also the results only focus. As like someone that employs people, I was like, you know what, I would, because as well, me, personally, if I was working with someone or working for someone, and I'm very much like, cool, what do I have to do? When we've worked on things, no, that's why I'm like, cool, I'm not, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
And I think that's very much come from me from playing in teams, like as football, as part of a team. I just have to focus on, because I trust my team so much. I'm not going to worry myself. I'm not only in sport, in other things as well. I trust my team so much. I'm not going to worry about what they have to do. I don't even really care what they have to do. I just care that they're going to do it. Just tell me what I need to do. What's my part? Because I don't want to be the weak link in this chain. So that's very much, and that's kind of what I try and instill on my team. Is like, look, everyone, we're all part of one thing. We're a clock. We see the hands moving, but there's a lot of gears going in the background. So those were the two main takeaways. There's other good takeaways, but those are my two main.
Yeah, I think to echo the the results only. I thought that was a useful point. I mean, I don't have full-time employees like yourself, but even
your contractors.
Yeah. I mean, it's still useful for anyone that works with me. So yeah, what was my other main takeaway? I mean, the more a reminder than a takeaway, but the I guess the little bets, just do something. just do something, please. And I see it all the time in people. It's like, they they're thinking about doing this or they're thinking about doing that,
Yeah.
and they talk about it. It's like, okay, you know, what what can you do to get there? Like, what you know, how can you start? All right, cool. Just just do something. You know,
Well, I was
watch
having
a
this
YouTube
convo.
video, or
Yeah.
you know what I
No,
mean.
no, sorry, carry on, carry on. Yeah, 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 it's true.
um,
Because I was talking with some young person, a young person the other day he's got a good business that he's doing and he's starting up. And I was giving him to my opinion on a few things, and I was just saying to him, and it kind of results are not results, ideas are overrated in a
yeah,
sense where everyone, I've got there's some wicked ideas, but again, unless you're putting that action behind it, you know, people will kind of give you advice and they're trying to be, they are being positive and stuff like that. It's like, you should do this, you should do that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I know. There's actually a million things that I could do or should do. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's that kind of takes away from your focus. And I think once you actually start to do things, you will become focused. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
once you do, like, if it's like, if you use the archaeologist as an example, he must have got better at talking to these people about bones and about, he got better, more comfortable talking to the camera. You said
yeah,
obviously yourself when you was practicing doing seminars or whatnot at the library, compare that Tyler to the Tyler that we have today. And that was just because you became focused on it. You were able to kind of assess yourself and get better and more comfortable with it. Because the more you do it, again, that 10,000 hour rule,
yeah,
the more
yeah,
you do
yeah,
it, the better you get at it. You learn, all right, I was talking too fast, I was mumbling, I was falling over my words, whatever it might be, and you improve.
yeah, 100%. Right, let's go on to our difficulty rating and our star rating. You're first this time. So
Okay.
difficulty, how was it? Out of five, zero is easy, five is hard.
I'll give this a 4, bro, as
Yeah,
difficulty. And not because of the words or the language, or it just was a hard read. I think, like I said, he's a blogger, so to me it just felt like a very, very, very long blog, like a 200 plus page blog.
yeah,
So I did find it. I found this is one of the hardest books I've found. I was happy to finish this book.
yeah.
4
Okay, cool. I found
for
it very
sure.
hard. And do you know what? Do you know why it's hard, but it's not hard? Because there wasn't difficult language in the book. The chapters weren't excessively long. It was just it was just not a nice read. I don't feel it was a yeah, for me, I don't feel it was a nice read.
Mm,
And this book's got some good reviews online, man. It's very, very good.
that's interesting.
So anyway, I say all that to give my rating 3. Yeah, 3 out of 5. It was hard, but it wasn't hard. It's the best way I can describe it.
Bro, listen, T, if it's hard, it's hard.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, I think it's not. I don't know. It's just the writing style. You know,
yeah. It's just the
for
writing
me. It was the
style.
writing
Yeah,
style. It wasn't my
yeah,
style.
yeah,
I don't want to.
yeah,
That's not my. It's the writing style. Just I find it hard. It didn't resonate.
yeah. Cool. Star rating. How good was this book? What would you give out of
Give
out of
it
5?
2.5. Um, I'm thinking, would I recommend this to somebody? I would recommend that they read the first paragraph of every chapter. So 2.5.
Do you know what? I had the same 2.5. Because there's some good messages in this book.
Yeah, yeah.
And I actually think, if you're in a career or you're just trying to find your next career step, if you've just come out of university or you've just started a job or you're working, I actually think the messages in this book are actually really good and could help a lot of people.
Mm.
Because the messages are good. The point of this book is good. But yeah, it's just hard to recommend based on the reading style. But
Mm.
someone else might disagree. So yeah, read the book as always. The link's in the description box. There were definitely some key takeaways. And yeah, next month's book. What do we have, Mr. Fly?
The compound effect. Yeah, I've read this book before.
Yeah.
It's a and I like it. Yeah, I don't. I know, we can talk about it when the time
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Talk
But it's the
about it next
compound
month.
effect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The compound effect.
Cool. Right. So make sure to hit that like, make sure to hit the subscribe, support the thing, and watch whatever videos on screen now. I'm sure you'll get some more value and some more gems. Peace and love.